Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Superplayer NegativeAE, and welcome back to Steins Gate 0, right where we left off. And yes, that's right, we're pretty much we're in the middle of an interview, basically. This happens a lot in AI research. Okay, let's just make sure that we know where we're at. Memories have been okay. Yeah, we don't know how the brain works. Is basically. This happens a lot. But someday I'm going to find out what human intelligence really is. And then Kurisu, finally. Maho suddenly fell silent in the middle of her sentence. What's wrong? Nothing. Is there anything else you want to know? It doesn't have to be about the frame problem. There was a lot I wanted to ask. But it felt like we had more than enough from Moeka's article. I looked at Moeka, who hesitated a second before speaking. What is it, Kiryu? Is it possible for artificial intelligence to surpass human capabilities? That's an interesting question. In terms of knowledge, Amadeus probably surpasses anyone in this room. She has Kurisu's memories, after all. There was no matching the knowledge of a genius. I'd gone up against Kurisu any number of times and learned that the hard way. But that's just comparing her to us. The memories for The memories for Kurisu come from Kurisu herself. In other words, they're human memories. We probably need to think about whether this can truly be considered surpassing a human's capabilities. But it won't be long before I think we've got an AI that does more than a human can, I think. Scientists have been saying for a while that by 2050, AIs will surpass humanity. They call it the singularity point, see? What is that? A theory proposed by mathematician Venor Vinge and inventor Raven. The phase refers to a point in time where AI is created whose intelligence sees their own. Amadeus' arrival should bring that day much, much closer than we anticipated. It would have to be something that learns, right? Because we can't program something smarter than us. So it would have to be something that learns better than us. A machine that's better than a human, huh? It seems like it's out of a movie. Is it possible? Is that possible? Huh? Well, it's hard to believe I'm hearing that from an engineering student. You can't fly like an airplane, can you? You can't run faster than a bullet train or do math as fast as a cheap calculator. Yeah, but you need the knowledge of the calculator in order to make a calculator, right? Like, you need to know how multiplication works, how division works, so in order to make a calculator. Even right now, the abilities of a machine far exceed those of a human. Nobody can say that the brain will be the only exception. There is no miraculous mechanism in this world that science can't explain. It's all physical phenomena, you see. Once you know the underlying principles, you can relate it artificially. My job is to solve riddles we don't have answers for to make true AI. How does that work for an interview, Kiryu? But Moeka just stared at her memo pad and didn't look up. Kiryu? Yes, this is plenty. I'm sure it will be an interesting article. Thank you too, Okabe. Yeah, it was really interesting. See, I feel like Moeka is pulling her leg here. I don't think she actually works for a paper. I think she's still part of CERN, and that interview was to try and like figure out stuff on their enemy, and like Maho's the most oblivious one that doesn't know what's going on with Dr. Leskinen, so she could just have interviews with random people. Anyway, I wanted to talk a little more, but both Maho and Moeka seem to have a lot of work to do. It's all physical phenomena, huh? Maho thought exactly the same way most AI researchers did, that there were no black boxes in the human brain. But I knew the truth. There were things inside the brain that science couldn't explain. Just what the hell is reading Steiner anyway? Was it ever going to be scientifically explained? I'm Maho now. Oh, oops. Gonna make me yawn, Maho, I swear. Maho quickly choked back her yawn and quickly looked around to see if anyone saw her. There were other people doing the same thing she was, leaning up against the railing of the bridge and killing time, of course. They were all too focused on themselves to pay her any mind. She planned on spending the day at Ferris's house, taking care of the paperwork left over from the office's temporary closure. But this morning she got a call from Dr. Leskinen that he had sent her hurrying to Tokyo Denki University. Tokyo Denki had, it seemed, offered them a temporary room at the school while their office was closed. Dr. Leskinen had called Dr. Iazaki at Tokyo Denki, who had given it to them without a second thought. So now, she had decided to pay the new office a visit and discuss what they had planned to do for the future. The Kanda campus for Tokyo Denki University wasn't that far away from Akibara, it seemed. Sure is a nice day out, though. The sky that poked out between the buildings had the clear color that was unique to winter. She spent the whole of yesterday cooped up inside her room, so the cold air felt good. She crossed her arms and reached upwards. Sure is late, though. The reason she was standing here was that she was waiting for Moeka. Oh, there she is. Sorry, almost there. No hurry, take your time. She didn't have to come all this way. Maho didn't know the way to Tokyo Denki University, so Moeka had kindly offered to take her there. And she'd asked for something in exchange. What was the something? I want to take a picture of you, Dr. Hyajo? That's a... I want to put it in the article. That's wrong. That's not a thing. Maho really didn't like having her picture taken, but if Moeka was nice enough to interview her, she wanted to do everything she could to help. Moeka had gone back to her home to get her camera. She said it was close enough to walk, so Maho had decided just to wait. She's always so excited on Rhine, though. She closed her phone and looked up, and then she saw Moeka directly under the bridge, running towards her. Sorry to keep you waiting, Dr. Hyajo. You didn't need to hurry so much. You want to take a break? No, I'm fine. Moeka went in front of Maho and started to walk ahead. The year had just started and the subway was empty. Maho decided to take a closer look at Moeka, who was standing next to her and grabbing onto one of the handles. Moeka had realized how she was being watched and tilted her head. Then she took out her phone and started to type. Maho's phone suddenly rang at the bottom of her bag. She just received a Ryan message. What's up? I see, so we can talk on the train like this. It feels strange talking to you on Rhine when we're right next to each other. You didn't look like you were doing well. It may have just been my imagination. Moika's expression didn't change much, but Maho thought that didn't mean she had no feelings. When she looked into Moika's thin, pretty eyes, she could see that she was an interested observer of many things. Maybe that's what you'd expect from a writer. I think she's leading you to a trap, is what I think. Sorry to worry you. It's nothing. Don't worry about it. I'll make sure you get to Denki U, Dr. Hyaja. It's weird being called Dr. Hyaja. It's weird? Yep. You don't have to call me Doctor both in the real world and on Rhine. Let's be a little more informal. But then what do I call you? Just call me by my name. That's what you do for Okabe, right? That's because he's a student and younger than me. You can treat me the same way. We'll be roommates for a while, and we're both about the same age. So how about we call each other Moeka and Maho? You would never tell by looking at them, but Maho and Moeka were only a year apart. And Maho was 21 and Moeka was 20, which meant that she was the older of the two. Maho couldn't help but wonder the kind of deal you had to make with God to get that height and those voluptuous breasts. No way. I never called anyone by their first name. I'd be too nervous. And what about Kiryu and Hyaja? Please be one of the few friends I've got in Japan. Got it, will do. Okay. Now try saying it now. Moeka suddenly jerked upright and opened her eyes wide. Here? Now? Yeah. Maho nodded at Moeka's whispered question. If we're doing it now, I want to start now. But, like I just said, I'm really not good at talking to people. Really? I thought you were just nervous because Okabe was with us last night. Like, you're the kind of person who gets nervous around the opposite sex? It's true that when I talk to men, I get even more nervous. In other words, when it's just girls, it's not so bad. It's not so bad that you can't talk? Well, maybe. Then since we're both girls, let's get along. I know. How about this? When it's just the two of us, how about we try to talk in person instead of Ryan as much as we can? Oh, I'm messing up. I'd be less bored with someone to talk to. If you're going to be a writer for a magazine, I think it'd be a good chance to practice, don't you? Spammer, jeez. Okay, I'll do my best. Moeka seemed to steel herself, then turned towards Maho. Hi. Hyaja. Thank you for your help with this. Yeah. You too, Kitty. The train arrived at their station. The area around Tokyo Denki was quiet. Moeka told her that the surrounding areas were offices and government buildings, which meant at this time of year there was almost no one around. She felt bad, but decided to have Moeka wait outside. The school was still on break, so she could have waited in one of the rooms on campus, but Moeka refused. Okay, I'll call you when I get out. She split up with Moeka. Maho got very lost on the way to Izaki's lab. The school was completely empty because of the break, so she couldn't ask anyone. In the end, she had to call Dr. Leskinen and get the detailed instructions. A letter was taped to the door marked Dr. Iyazaki's lab. And the letter had a photo of a smiling Dr. Leskinen along with some low-resolution text that looked like it was directly printed from a PC screen. For immediate release, Global Brain Science Comprehensive Research Organization, Japanese Office Prep Room. The founder of this establishment, Alexis Leskinen, has a request. Alexis. If everyone who saw this donated just $1, I could eat a can of Odin right now. He loves this stuff so much. No matter how formal the setting, when the professor wanted to tell a joke, he'd do it. He was really just like a child. But his carefree personality let Maho and Kudisu relax and enjoy their work. Suddenly remembering Kudisu made her heart ache a little. She suddenly realized the sudden change of address, and coupled with living with a person she barely even met, was taking a toll on her. Today she'd finally gotten the chance to talk to her again. Or, more accurately, the memories she'd left behind. Professor, Dr. Leskinen. When she stepped inside the lab and called the professor's name, the giant in the back came running to greet her. Hey Maho, thanks for coming. Welcome to our powered up prep room. So this table and 2 sofas are our powered up prep room, huh?
Yes.
Yes. They say simplicity is the secret key to the truth, do they not? Who says that? That's what I was gonna say. I do. I feel like you're evil. Get out of my life. Professor clapped his hands and laughed. Maho ignored him and went to sit on the sofa. He didn't seem hurt. Now, about our future plans. Oh, sorry. I want to boot out Amadeus. Just give me a second. She took out a laptop and put it on the table. Her OS, a Linux variant. A Linux variant customized for research purposes, booted up and displayed the login screen. Maho typed in her account name the same way she'd done 1,000 times before. Silly. For just a moment, she stared at the letters in her account name. She quickly put in the password and called up the desktop. Before long, Kudisu appeared on the screen. It's been a long time, Maho. A long time? We just talked 2 days ago. It was an emergency. It didn't count. And even besides that, we haven't gotten to talk much lately. It's not my fault. We were testing. During Okabe and Kudisu's communication test, Maho and Dr. Leskinen had avoided talking to Amadeus to keep from adding noise to the experiment. Not that Okabe's talked to me a lot lately, though. Are you two maybe meeting without telling me? You were together 2 days ago, after all. What? I told you, it's not like that. Where do you get these delusions that everything in the world is about romance? It's not illusion, it's a highly accurate hypothesis based off of calm, dispassionate observation and analysis. If you like that stuff so much, maybe you should have majored in it. Given how totally wrong you are, you probably wouldn't have graduated, let alone your doctorate. Dr. Leskinen brought his hands together in exaggerated motion. It feels like it's been so long since I've seen this. It used to be I could always find you wherever you were on campus. Because I could always hear you yelling at each other. Come on, Professor, stop joking around. It just means you're very close. You two are a lot like sisters. Now, let's get this meeting started. We need to talk about our future plans. The person that uses their time most efficiently wins. It's another one of my great quotes. Oh, it's a music, Kudisu. Can you play me something? Sure. music gonna play? Okay. A soft piano melody began to play from the laptop's loudspeakers.
これは
This.
先輩覚えてますか
Maho, do you remember?
私と先輩のきっかけの
It's
曲
the
です
song that brought us together. She'd never forget. It was what brought them together a year ago. It is the symbol of their relationship. A year ago, in September of 2009, Kurusu had officially joined the Brain Science Institute. She'd completed the graduate school's doctorate program in May of that year and had only turned 17 in July. Maho herself had joined the Brain Science Institute at an extremely young age, but her record had been beaten quite a lot. Quite a lot. Damn. Kurusu was a genius. Everyone who met her could tell. Dr. Leskinen had been Kurusu's advisor during the program, so Maho had met her several times. And that was enough to tell her that Kurusu was different. Kurusu never showed off her own talents. Actually, she didn't seem to think of herself as particularly intelligent at all. But that actually made her a little hard, that actually made it a little hard for the people around to approach her. I'm tired. Whenever you talked to Kurusu, you were forced to realize that there was a gap between you and her that could never be erased. She'd learned later from Dr. Leskinen that things had been the same in grad school. It was rumored that the real reason she'd come to America from Japan at the age of 11. No matter what she wanted, no matter where she lived, she was cut off from the people around her. That was what it meant to be a genius like her. Since Maho was a girl too, and close to her in age, she actually considered Kurusu more of a rival. Since they were working in the same field, they were going to be compared, and she didn't want to lose. Maybe that was why Maho had never thought of going to talk to her. And Kurusu had always been so busy learning how to work at the lab that she'd never come to talk to Maho. But then 2 weeks after Kurusu came to the lab, a certain classical song had changed their relationship forever. And play. There were two types of people in the world. Those who worked better with music and those who worked better with silence. From a brain science perspective, the idea that you could concentrate better with music was sheer nonsense. Whether you were aware of it or not, the sound was vibrating your eardrums and your brain was continually analyzing it. But if there was ever a public debate on the subject, Maho would want to take the first position. Theory and feelings were different. You could concentrate best with music in the background, and you could also be more creative. But there was one condition. The song has to have been composed by Mozart. I think it's just piano music. I don't know if you've heard some of Mozart's songs, because I guess Bach was a worse offender by far. Maho whispered to herself as she turned towards the computer. She'd been running a patch on some equations, which was for 2 full days, and it had finally completed today. Today she was going to spend the whole day analyzing the output. It was Saturday, so she was the only person in the lab, and this was the one day she had the whole huge space to herself. So she decided to play Mozart's 11th sonata from the speakers, not her headphones. She didn't intend to pay any attention to the music. It was more like a ritual she needed in order to concentrate. It was a warm-up exercise before she could dive into a sea of numbers and equations. When she dove in, she wouldn't need it anymore, so she simply stopped hearing it. She stopped seeing everything around her, too. All she saw was the numbers and equations. All that went in her head were numbers and equations. All that was left was a thinking machine named Maho Hyajo. Her mind left behind the bonds of her physical body, and the speed of her thoughts accelerated towards the infinite. That's deep. It was time for another fun journey.
おはようございます。
Good morning. Yeah? Someone suddenly whispered in her ear, and Maho jumped out of her chair, lost her balance, and fell. She looked up and saw Kurusu staring down at her, beginning to panic.
すみません。
I'm sorry.
そんな
I
に
didn't
驚
think
か
you'd
れ
be
ると
so
は思わなく
surprised.
て。クリス。
Kurusu,
驚かせないでよ。
don't scare me like that.
何度か呼んだんですけど。
I called your name a bunch of times, but you didn't seem to hear me.
あ
Oh. Maho stood up and sat back in her chair.
あ、ごめんなさい。集中してて
Sorry, I
聞
was
こえなかったわ。
focusing so much that I didn't hear you.
はい。そうだと
Yeah,
思ってました。
I thought so. Hey, you should have just left me alone. Maybe Kurusu could tell she was thinking that because she quickly added,
申し訳ないとは思ったんですが。
I felt bad about
せっ
it,
かく休日
but
に先
since
輩
I'd
とお会いしたわ
run
けだし。
into you on a
挨拶
weekend, I
しておき
thought
たい
I
な
should say something.
それにま
And
だ
you
作
seemed
業を
like you
始め
just
たばかり
started,
のようでした
so
か
I
ら。
didn't think
お
I'd be
邪
a
魔には
bother.
な。今来たの？
Did you just get here?
はい。私
Yeah.
だけかと思ったか
I
ら。
thought I'd be the only one
驚きま
here.
した。
I'm surprised. Then Maho realized something was strange.
あなた今来たって言
You
ったわよ
said
ね。
you just got here, right?
だったらなぜ私が作業
So
を
how
始め
did
た
you
ばかり
know
だ
I'd
と思
only
った
just
の？
started working?
それは
Oh, because Kurusu pointed to the speakers.
まだ第一楽章の頭でしたか
You're
ら。
still at the start of the first movement.
ケッヘル331。モーツァルト
K331
ピアノソナタ
Mozart's
第11
piano
番異調調第一楽章。
Oh, dude, she knows.
お
It's true.
あなた
You like
モーツァル
Mozart?
トかじった程度です。
I just know a little about him.
それにモーツァルト全般という
And
よ
it's really
りは
more that I just like
この
this
曲が
song.
好き。世間的にはトルコ行進曲の
The
方が有
Turkish
名
march
です
is
けど、
more popular, but
私はこの第
the
一楽
melody
章
in
の
the first
静かな
movement
調べ
feels
の
so
方が
much more
心地いいです
pleasant,
ね。
doesn't it?
私も同意見よ。
I agree.
よかった。私も
I'm so glad.
気合を入れて集中する
Whenever I'm
ときは
trying to focus, I put
BGM の
Mozart
モ
on
ーツ
the
ァルトを流
background.
してます。
This is very,
科学者としての発言ではないですけどね。
it's not a very scientific thing to do, I know. It's a very weird conversation. Being a music major, it's like, I don't know. Maho couldn't help but laugh. She realized Kurusu was saying the same thing she'd said earlier. And in the 2 weeks since Kurusu had joined the team, Maho hadn't been quite sure how to deal with her. But now she wanted to know a little more. So she used the signal her co-workers always used when they wanted to take breaks.
コーヒーでも飲む？
Want to get some coffee?
賛成です。
Sounds great.
先輩にいくつか質
There's
問
a
した
bunch
い
of
こと
stuff I
もあり
wanted to
ま
ask
すし。
you. As she watched Kurusu follow her, filled with energy, she was reminded of the pet dog she used to have. But later she would realize that was one of the things that made Kurusu cute. She got 2 hot coffees from the lab coffee machine, and the two of them talked about their research for a while. It must have been a strange sight. A 20-year-old Maho and a 17-year-old Kurusu debating the latest developments in cerebral physiology while drinking coffee out of paper cups. But the two of them realized that since they'd never had someone of the same sex and age to work with, these conversations were a big help to the both of them. Having the older Maho must have been particularly a big help to Kurusu. Once in a while, Kurusu would still call her senpai, the Japanese word for an upperclassman or more senior colleague.
そういえば、アイ
You
ンシ
know,
ュタインはバイ
I
オリンが
once
趣
heard
味だ
that
ったらしい
Einstein
で
liked
す
to play
ね。
the violin.
モーツァルトを尊敬していたようね。
He seemed to have a lot of respect for Mozart.
Mozart
Maybe it's a tradition for scientists to like
由緒
Mozart.
正しもしそうなら光栄です
If
ね。
that's true, then it's an honor. After a short debate about their work, the two of them talked about Mozart until they finished their coffee. After she'd had a real conversation with Kurusu, Maho realized that she was totally different than her first impression. Every time she spoke, she'd smile or pout. It was adorable to watch. But the only thing she had in common with most people was her age and her appearance. She was a genius. I read that wrong, I know I did. Do you know what Einstein said when someone asked him what death meant to him? No, what did he say? Death means not getting to listen to Mozart anymore. You guys are a little too into Mozart, I think. You could be into Mozart, but like, when you start fanboying over Mozart, something's a little off. I mean, Mozart's really cool. Don't get me wrong. I'll listen to Mozart for days. But, I don't know. I had no idea. Einstein said that, huh? No, he didn't. Well, to be completely accurate, we can't prove that he didn't say it. But, at least there are no records of it. What do you mean? Kurisu smiled and put her finger up to her lips. A book that was published in Japan a long time ago that phrases a quote from another biography. But the Japanese book didn't specify which biography they got the quote from, and no one has ever found it. So the author made it up. Sheesh. We can't prove that, so we can't be totally sure. But I think these words are very much what a logical man like Einstein would say. Logical? Yes, because once you're dead, you can't listen to Mozart, right? Of course not. Yes. Of course not. Once you're dead, you can't listen to anything at all, not just Mozart. Thus the statement is true. See? Logical, right? You're very interesting, you know that? Intelligence and childishness, all wrapped up in the same brain. I'm not childish. Sorry. I know it's a bit late, but it's a pleasure to be working with you, Kurisu. Maho offered her hand, and Kurisu shook it with a smile. Kurisu's hand was warm. You too, Maho. Mozart had brought the two of them together. Kurisu was a child beloved by God. Everyone was amazed and astonished by her unmatched creativity. Everyone including, of course, Maho. Something. It felt like she had to remember something important. Good morning. Suddenly someone whispered in her ear and Maho jumped off the sofa. What? Kurisu was right. At some point, Dr. Leskinen had picked up the laptop and taken it behind Maho's back. Kurisu was on the screen laughing at her. Evidently, the professor had brought it close to Maho's ears and made Kurisu whisper to her. You were just in concentration mode, weren't you? No matter how many times the professor called your name, you wouldn't come out of your little world. Sorry. I'm impressed that you can continue your research even while this emergency's going on. The professor put the laptop back on the table and sat on the sofa across from her, and then they started the meeting. She discussed their future plans with the professor. One of the options came up was going back to America. Something kept bugging Maho the whole time during the meeting. When she was remembering how she'd met Kurisu, she was also remembering something else. Saliri, Maho's user account name. She'd picked it up a month after Kurisu had died. For some reason, she couldn't stop thinking about it. I can't predict what that foreshadows. That's foreshadowing something, but I don't know what it foreshadows. After she finished her meeting with Dr. Leskinen and left the school, she realized it had started to rain. So it did rain. There's a lot of foreshadowing that's going on. I would be surprised if they didn't. I would be surprised if they didn't throw something crazy here. And what if Kiryu's in some shop somewhere? Just as she went to take out her phone and send a message to her, she got a message of her own from Kurusu. It was fun talking with Sawayama today. Tell me about Okabe next time. I had fun too. I've said this before, but it's not like that. God damn it, where's that frog emote come from? What the fuck? She was about to snap and say something back when she saw Moeka in her field of vision. She'd opened her folding umbrella and was crouching by the side of the road with her phone out. When Maho appeared, she saw a flower blooming between the asphalt and the shrubbery. Moeka was trying to take a picture of it. Sorry, Kiryu, I'm done. An interesting picture. Moeka looked up and opened her mouth hesitantly. Mao was happy that she said her name. You were taking pictures of the flowers. Maho nodded and looked back towards the ground. There was a tiny flower blooming from where the asphalt met the shrubbery, and there was no other flower like it in view. The wind must have brought it here. The flower's color was striking, but something, perhaps the rain, made it look sickly. Moeka took a picture of it. And then another, and another. The umbrella in her hand seemed to be stopping her from taking a good picture. Want me to hold your umbrella? No, I'm fine. That's okay. It's fine, it's fine. Maho practically yanked the umbrella out of Moeka's hands. Thank you. Is that what's gonna happen? Moeka's gonna be like not around her anymore because Maho's her friend and like she cares? Because the whole reason she was around in the last one was because nobody cared about her. Nobody cared about Moeka. And so she thought that her only person was her mother, FB, which was actually Tanoji. But if Maho is her friend, then maybe she won't care about FB? We'll see. We'll see what happens. Moeka used both her hands to steady her camera. Then when it came into focus, she pressed the button. A moment later, she stood up, satisfied. I got a good photo. I'm all set. Were you getting ready for my portrait? Moeka shook her head. I can't take your picture. It's raining. I always take pictures of landscapes. You like taking photos? Moeka shook her head again. It's proof. Proof of where I was today. Proof? Yeah. What do you mean? And then she heard the sound that meant she received a round message. Is that from Kurusu again? I got one too. It's from Ferris. From Ferris. Disaster, Nya. The 314th prophecy of Fatima has come to pass, Nya. The hearts of men have lost the will to believe, and the seal created by the sacrifice of the ancient Incan civilization has been broken, Nya. It's only a matter of time before the dark god, the master of Pluto, revives, Nya. Not only the Earth, but the whole Galactic Federation is in danger, Nya. Summon the House of Lords and the Senate immediately, Nya. The President is missing, but I'm sure he's flown off in Air Force One or something to fight the enemy himself, Nya. I'll start the ceremony to seal him away once more, nya. What? I want you to buy time for me until it finishes, nya. Wait. What are you talking about? That was a joke, nya. But really, there's trouble, nya. What happened? I'll explain later, nya. There's a critical mission I want you to do before you head back to the condo, nya. God damn it, Ferris. With the nyas. You're in text conversation. You don't need to add the nya. Both Maho and Moeka looked at each other, confused by Ferris' strange message. What's the critical message? What's the critical event? Welcome, both of you, nya. The time limit approaches, but there's still time, nya. Is everything ready, nya? Okay. We're going to go ahead and end it here. This is going to be a little bit short. I mean, the last episode was an hour. This episode is going to be 40 minutes. We're kind of flip-flopping. But I don't want to get into something and then have it take like another 20 minutes. We are at 40 minutes exactly, so I don't want to get into that trap of me being super interested in whatever's going on and then forgetting about the time. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed today's episode, hit the like button. I really appreciate that. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, because we upload a lot of visual novel and roguelike stuff if you're into that. And I hope to see you guys in the next episode, whatever that may be. I appreciate all you guys, and peace out.